Nancy Pelosi is sworn in as the new Speaker of the House. The far left makes its policy pitch, and the shutdown continues. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Oh man, so much to get to today. All the Democrats had to do was not be bat bleep loony. That's all they had to do, and they just couldn't do it. The first day of the new Democrat Congress goes about as horribly as you'd expect. And a new economic report out that shows that President Trump's economy is not slowing down. Not quite yet. We'll talk about all of that in just a second. First, let's talk about how you make your home and neighborhood safer. Today, over 1 million people use the amazing Ring video doorbell to help protect their homes. I know that we do at my house. We are very concerned about safety, not only because I'm a public figure, but also because I have young kids. Ring video doorbell allows me to see who is ringing my doorbell anytime, day or night, no matter where I am in the country. It rings directly to my phone. I can answer it. I can call the police. I can do all sorts of things to make sure that my home is safe. A lot of people try to ring the doorbell to see if you're home before they rob your house. Well, they're not going to know if you're home with Ring video doorbell. Ring knows home security begins at the front door, but it does not end there. So right now, they're extending that same level of security to the rest of your home with the Ring floodlight cam, just like the Ring amazing doorbell. Floodlight cam is a motion-activated camera and floodlight that connects right to your phone with HD video, two-way audio. It lets you know the moment anyone steps on your property. Ring Floodlight offers the ultimate in in-home security with high-visibility floodlights, a powerful HD camera that puts security in your hands. With Ring, you are always at home. Save up to $150 off that Ring of Security kit when you go to ring.com/Ben. Again, that's ring.com/Ben. Once more, ring.com/Ben. Go check it out. Ring products are great, and they do help you keep your home safe and make you feel more secure. Ring.com/Ben. Go check it out. Okay, so day one of the new Democratic Congress. All the Democrats are sworn in, and it's a beginning of a new dawn. I mean, if you look at how the media portrayed this, it was fresh faces galore, diversity, beautiful diversity. Diversity of the radical left, because it turns out that all the Democrats had to do when they took office was not be completely insane, and they just couldn't do it. It's truly amazing. If you look back at the last days of the 2018 campaign, the key question in the 2018 campaign was going to be, who were voters going to focus on? Were they going to focus on the foibles of the Republicans, or are they going to focus on the myriad stupidities of the Democrats? In the aftermath of the Judge Kavanaugh hearings, where Democrats proved themselves to care nothing about due process or decency, Republicans skyrocketed in the polls because all the focus was on how terrible the Democrats were. And then President Trump shifted the topic from Judge Kavanaugh to the caravan and to his border policies, and suddenly the focus was on Republicans, and people decided they didn't like the Republicans, and they ran screaming from the Republicans, and Republicans ended up losing the popular vote in the House by 8.6 percentage points. The same thing happened in 2016. The question was, is the focus on Hillary or is the focus on Trump? When the focus was on Trump, Trump went down in the polls. When the focus was on Hillary, as it was at the very end of the election, in large part thanks to James Comey's memo, at that point, the focus shifted to Hillary Clinton and Hillary Clinton lost. Well, in 2020, whoever the focus is on is going to lose, because it turns out that Americans hate both parties. Americans think that both parties stink. Americans hate these politicians. And so whoever they are focused on at that moment, whoever the public eye of Sauron alights upon, is going to be in trouble. So all the Democrats had to do for 2020 was just keep the focus on President Trump. They can't do it because they're crazy. And it turns out that their agenda is radically to the left. Radical left. They're not bringing up any serious policy proposals. They're not bringing up any serious measures to alleviate the problems that America is experiencing. They're not unifying Americans around common values or decency. Instead, they're going to be just as crazy as they can be, and the media are going to celebrate them for it. The media are going to talk about how wonderful they are for being incredibly radical. So Nancy Pelosi takes the gavel yesterday as Speaker of the House after 8 long years in the wilderness. She is back, and her first thing is that she says that she's going to tackle climate change. Okay, if we're going to actually look at the priorities that Americans care about, climate change is not in the top 10. Climate change is not a major priority for Americans, specifically because if you look at the statistics, America's carbon emissions have actually been dropping in recent years. Okay, the statistics show that 2 of the chief ways, Noah Rothman writes this in commentary today, 2 of the chief ways in which individuals can reduce their carbon footprints, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that's the UN, would be to purchase electric or hybrid cars or to install smart thermostats in their homes. And consumers are already doing that in the United States, right? You got that Nest thermostat that the state pays for. People are putting that in their house already. Also, U.S. carbon emissions declined to a 67-year low in 2017. The U.S. power generation sector cut emissions by 28% since 2005. The U.S. is meeting its Paris Climate Accord targets despite having left the stupid agreement in early 2017. right? All that's happening, and Americans are not deeply concerned about climate change because they do recognize that in reality, technological change is going to outpace all of the sort of socialistic cram-downs that Democrats want. Nonetheless, Nancy Pelosi targets climate change as her chief priority, and she's not the only one. Bernie Sanders was saying climate change is a top priority. Hank Johnson was saying that climate change is a top priority. Democrats across the board are saying climate change is their top priority. That's where you're going? Really? To climate? Well, here's Nancy Pelosi doing it yesterday.
The existential threat of our time, the climate crisis, a crisis manifested in natural disasters of epic proportions. The American people understand the urgency. The people are ahead of the Congress. The Congress must join them. And that is why we have created a select committee on climate crisis. The entire Congress must work to put an end to the inaction and denial of science that threaten the planet and the future.
Okay, if you really think that this is what the American people are looking for, you're out of your mind, and the Democrats campaigning on this is crazy. It's particularly crazy when you have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's thrown out what she calls a Green New Deal. Okay, her Green New Deal document that she put out yesterday is fully crazy. It's the text of a proposed House rule change outlining a plan, her Green New Deal. Now, the reason that we bring up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this is always what I caveat with. We're not bringing her up because we think she's an inherently important person. Okay, she's a woman who won 12,000 votes in a heavy Democrat district in a primary that was majority minority and had a white representative, and they threw him out in favor of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This was not some sort of great puzzle. This is not some sort of massive movement inside the American public, but she has been touted by the media as a leader in the Democratic Party. Okay, it's not my fault that the media decided to choose a complete ignoramus as the face of the new Democratic Party. It's not my fault. Okay, that's the fault of the Democrats and the fault of the media. And that means that it is now incumbent on us to take whatever crazy ideas she has seriously. Now, listen, I'll admit that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a good dancer. There's this video that came out of her yesterday dancing on top of a rooftop. And for some reason, I guess there wasn't anybody on the right that I saw who was upset about this. We all thought, oh, this is kind of charming and fun. There was one person on Twitter who said, this just shows Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is privileged or something. And everybody came down on this person so hard that they actually left Twitter. The media played it as though conservatives were scolding her over her dancing. I don't care that she's dancing. She seems like a pretty good dancer, right? I mean, here's the video of her dancing on a rooftop, basically reenacting one of the kind of montages from The Breakfast Club. Right? It's cute and it's funny. It's nice. I mean, who cares? Like, here, we can show it. Here she is dancing. Just dancing around, right? Just cute girl dancing around. All right. Well, it turns out she is significantly better at dancing than she is at economics. Now, if you asked me to take her seriously as a dancer, I'd be like, okay, this video is important. But this video isn't important. Okay, the part that's important is that she doesn't know anything about economics, and she says crazy crap all the time. And that's what the new Democratic Party is. What they want you to see is the fun girl dancing and being Alex from the Bronx or whatever she calls herself. What she actually is a crazy loonbag socialist. She was a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Okay, and now, here are the details of her Green New Deal that she put out. Okay, this is nuts. Here's what she says. This is according to Tom Elliott over at Grabien.com. The proposed rule change for the upcoming 116th Congress would require the creation of a select committee for a Green Deal that would be responsible for creating a plan by January 1st, 2020, with corresponding draft legislation soon after. The text of the rule change lays out the committee's jurisdiction and required areas of action. Its scope and mandate for legislative authority amounts to a radical grant of power to Washington over Americans' lives, homes, businesses, travel, banking, and more. So what exactly are they looking for? What is she looking for? Their goal is to meet 100% of national power demand through renewable sources. Okay, by like 2020 or by 2030. By 2030, she wants 100% renewable power sources crammed down by government. Let me explain how insane this is off the top of it. Okay, here is America's energy consumption by energy source for 2017, which is the latest data available. 37% of America's energy consumption came in the form of petroleum. Another 29% came in the form of natural gas. Another 14% came in the form of coal. Another 9% came in the form of nuclear electric power, which the Democrats don't like. 11% of America's energy supply came from renewable energy. So in other words, the growth of America's economy, the growth of the world economy, which is dependent on the growth of America's economy, is powered 89% by sources of energy that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't like. She doesn't like nuclear energy, so we're not going to count that, even though that really is a pretty clean source of energy, right? France is basically run on nuclear energy. Okay, it's just ridiculous. And by the way, even when we talk about renewable energy, Okay, wood constitutes 19% of that. Okay, so that's not quite as renewable as people want. That has carbon emissions. When you use wood for fuel, that actually does have carbon emissions. Solar represents 6% of the 11% that is renewable energy. Wind represents 21% of the 11%. In other words, solar and wind and hydroelectric represent something like 5% of the total energy supply of the United States. She wants it to be 100% by 2030. How is that going to happen? Through massive taxation and quashing of the American economy. And that's how it's going to happen. But it doesn't stop there. The document also states that the Green New Deal will advance non-environmental projects such as social, economic, racial, regional, and gender-based justice. What a Green New Deal has to do with gender-based justice is beyond me. I don't know what the hell that's even supposed to mean. Doesn't matter. She says that we should have a national energy-efficient smart grid. I'd like her to design it. Right? Since she's obviously an expert in energy management, more so than people in coal and natural gas and petroleum, probably she should design it, right? I mean, she's a government expert. She was bartending until 5 seconds ago. But clearly, if there's one person who knows how to build a national energy-efficient smart grid, and that's not just a mashup of a bunch of words that sound nice together, it would be somebody like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, whose combined brain power could maybe provide the electricity to lightly toast a piece of bread. Right? As long as we're talking about people providing renewable sources of energy. I'll get to more on Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez's idiotic plans. All the Democrats had to do was not be crazy. They couldn't do it. And this is the least crazy part of what they did yesterday. First, let's calm down for a second. Let's calm down. Because we're going to need to calm down. The next 2 years is going to be a rocky road, and you're going to need to calm down. What if 2019, instead of being just chaotic, was all about slowing down and being mindful? Well, we are excited to partner with Calm, C-A-L-M, the #1 app to help you meditate, sleep, and relax. Look at me. Do I look like a ball of stress? Of course I do. But that's why I need Calm, right? Calm is what helps me sleep at night. They have all of these great aspects of their app that allow you to relax and meditate and fall asleep, really. If you go to calm.com/Ben, you get 25% off a Calm premium subscription, which includes hundreds of hours of programs, including guided meditation on issues like anxiety, stress, and focus. There's something called Daily Calm, which is perfect to guide you in building a meditation habit. And the best thing is sleep stories. These are bedtime stories for adults designed to help you relax before you doze off. So it's stuff, basically, it's people with soothing voices telling you stories about the lavender fields of France with Stephen Fry. And you are out like a light, man. I mean, this stuff is just magic. For a limited time, Ben Shapiro listeners get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/Ben. That's calm.com/Ben, and get unlimited access to all of Calm's content today at calm.com/Ben. Give yourself the gift of Calm this New Year's. It could actually change your life, right? Sleeping better, calming down, make your life so much better. Calm.com/Ben makes it happen for you. Calm.com/Ben. When you use that /Ben, you get 25% off a Calm premium subscription. So go check that out right now. Okay, so back to AOC's Grand New Deal. And again, the reason we're talking about this is because she is the fresh new face. I was encouraged by a friend of mine on Twitter who's a professor of policy. I believe it's over at Yale. His name is Howard Foreman. He's a health policy and economic policy advisor. He says, well, why don't you just pay attention? Why don't you just pay attention to the more moderates in the Democratic caucus? Because the media is not. Okay, because the Democrats are not. Because AOC is on 60 Minutes this Sunday. That's why. Okay, so I'm going to go through the rest of her plan, and then I will tell you how she plans to pay for all of this. So she says we should upgrade every residential and industrial building for state-of-the-art energy-efficient comfort and safety. That's not going to cost any money. We're going to retrofit every building in the United States with all this stuff. Eliminating greenhouse gas emissions for manufacturing, agriculture, and other industries. How? How is a good question. It's a really useful question. How? Why? Right? These are useful questions in politics. She says funding massive investment in reducing existing greenhouse gases. But that's not all. The proposed committee would also have seeming total oversight of American industry with a mandate for pushing union membership. So it's not just that we are going to green the economy through the force of government. We are going to unionize every industry to green the economy through the force of government. If this sounds a lot like the government controlling industry from the top down and destroying the economy, that's because it's precisely what it is. She wants a national jobs force to help people participate in the transition to the green economy. She says the Green New Deal will provide all members of our society across all regions and all communities the opportunity, training, and education to be a full and equal participant in the transition, including through a job guarantee program to assure a living wage job to every person who wants one. So let me get this straight. We could have the government take over all the industries and regulate them down to the ground, unionize all the industries, guarantee the employment through all the industries, and redistribute income for gender-based justice through all of this. Have we ever tried anything like this before in human history? Yes. Has it worked out super well? No. It turns out people like their property. It turns out that people are fans of being able to create. People like being entrepreneurs. People like working in creative areas. People like freedom. Freedom is a nice thing. And beyond that, obviously, this is going to destroy the economy. I mean, it's just immoral for her to suggest that innovation is dying, and therefore we have to cram it. What has she ever invented? Has she invented a thing? I mean, granted, she does Instagram instant pot cooking lessons. Ooh. But has she ever created a job? Has she ever hired anyone? Not with government money at her congressional office, but an actual job. Has she ever produced a product or a good or a service anyone wanted to buy? And yet she's going to be running the economy. Perfect. Also, she says that the plan includes fail-safes in the form of income, universal income, and Medicare for all. Those are the side projects that they're going to be working on in their spare time. Universal income and Medicare for all. Yeah, this isn't going to go wrong in any way. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez puts out this plan, and then she's asked, she's on 60 Minutes. Remember, she is the new face. She's the new face. Not my fault. You picked her, morons. Okay, so she's the new face. Okay, I'm not going to... Okay, so and here's what she says. She is asked, so how are you going to pay for all of this? Her answer, of course, is we are going to raise taxes massively on the rich. Here is her dumb answer. Again, much better at dancing than economics, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%. That doesn't mean all $10 million are taxed at an extremely high rate, but it means that as you climb up this ladder, you should be contributing more.
What you are talking about, just big picture, is a radical agenda compared to the way politics is done right now. Do you call yourself a radical?
Yeah, if that's what radical means, call me a radical.
Okay, well, I will. You're a radical. You're an insane radical. Okay, when she says, thanks for explaining marginal tax rates to me, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, what would be awesome is if she explained how much money the people in the top quintile of the United States pay in federal income tax. Okay, here is the latest statistic. This is from April of 2018. Okay, for 2018, the reality is that top earners will pay the overwhelming majority of all taxes in the United States. Houses in the top 20% will have income of about $150,000 or more, and 52% of total income. They will pay 87% of all income taxes. 87% of all income taxes are paid for by the people in the top 20% of income earners. But by the way, it's worth noting here that America has the most progressive tax system in the entire industrialized world. Okay, that and when I say progressive, I mean the more money you make, the more money you pay. This is truer in America than it is in any of the European countries that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is talking about. The reality is that in order to pay for all of her god-awful, terrible, regulatory, economy-crushing programs, she would have to raise taxes radically on people who are lower down on the income scale. And when you hear people like Bernie Sanders say things like, well, back in the day of JFK, the top marginal tax rate was 91%. Why cannot we do that now? A few quick notes about this idiotic point. Number one, the top marginal tax rate in the day of Eisenhower and JFK was indeed 91%. But that was for people who earned, filing jointly, $3.4 million in inflation-adjusted dollars. The top marginal tax rate in the United States today kicks in at about $400,000. Okay, so not the same thing. Two, even that 91% top marginal tax rate was never paid for by anyone. The effective tax rate for people making that amount of money in 1955 was about 45%. Why? Because everybody was shielding their income because of the lower corporate tax rate, and also because until at that point you were actually allowed to deduct on your taxes depreciation on all loans and depreciation on all real estate. So people just weren't paying that tax rate is the reality. And the economy was good because people weren't actually paying that tax rate. For every year between 1952 and 2014, the government brought in between 17 and 20% of GDP in tax revenue and between 7 and 9% of GDP in income tax revenue. So it's just a lie to suggest that taxes used to be so high and the economy was awesome when the taxes were super duper high. People just weren't paying them. They just were not paying them. If you really believe that you can do this to the tax rates and that magically everything will be okay, you're an idiot. And by the way, all the proposals they're talking about, these Medicare for all studies, Guy Benson put this together a few months ago. He talked about how to raise tax rates to pay for AOC's and Bernie Sanders' Medicare for all nonsense. And here's what he came up with. Here's what you'd have to do. You'd have to raise the payroll tax paid for by workers and employers by 10 percentage points for everyone. Okay, for the workers and the employers, so that's a 20% increase. Impose a brand new 20% national VAT sales tax and hike income tax rates across the board for poor people, middle-class people, and rich people by 10 percentage points. Not one of those, all of those. All of those. This is why, if you look at all the famed socialistic countries, these supposed socialistic countries that the Democrats like to talk about, the Norways and the Denmarks, the average tax rate across the board is exorbitant. Exorbitant. People are paying 60% of their income to the Denmarkian government, okay, to the government of Denmark, the Danish government. You're paying 60% of your income when you make over $60,000 a year in Denmark. And that does not include the national sales tax, which means that when all is said and done, like 80% of your income is going to the government of Denmark. Does that sound awesome to you? Do you think that might have an impact on, how business works in the United States? Now, it's always easy, always, to look at these Democrat socialist countries in Northern Europe and say, well, look, their economies are still working fine. You know why they're working fine? Because everyone on planet Earth is reliant on the economic strength of the United States. When the U.S. hits a depression, the rest of the world hits a depression. The economy is interconnected. It's why China right now is having economic problems, and it's going to affect the U.S. markets. If the U.S. has economic problems, everyone goes down the crapper. It's easy to survive with a population of 6 million and exorbitantly high tax rates, a homogenous population of 6 million and exorbitantly high tax rates. You can survive if you've got the float of the United States bolstering the world economy. All socialism does is redistribute the gains made by capitalism. But it's slightly a different thing when there is no backup plan. What happens when the U.S. economy tanks because of all these myriad stupidities being pushed by the radical left in terms of policy? So that's their big plan. So their big plan is this new Green Deal, big spending, Medicare for all, free college for all. We're going to do all of these grandiose things that cost exorbitant amounts of taxpayer dollars and are wrong-headed in the extreme as well. That when it comes to their college free for all plan, they say, well, we could pay for that by just raising taxes a little bit and we'd pay for the education. We don't need more people going to community colleges to get degrees they don't need. What we need is more people going into careers that are useful. The idea that college is inevitably driving income is just wrong. Correlation does not equal causation there. The bottom quintile of college degree earners is earning less than the top quintile of high school degree earners, meaning that you can have a high school degree and still make a good living in the United States if you're willing to move up to Montana and work in oil rigging. But apparently we're not allowed to talk about any of those things anymore. Okay, so that wasn't the only thing on the Democrats' agenda this week. So what did they propose in their first couple of days? Well, we have Brad Sherman, who is my representative here in California and is a full-fledged doof. He intends to introduce articles of impeachment against President Trump on Thursday as the new session of Congress convenes. Because this is a priority. We're going to impeach President Trump with no underlying charges. He's going to accuse Trump of obstruction of justice in the firing of James Comey, which is absolutely asinine. There's no obstruction of justice in firing your own FBI director. You have the authority to do that. Comey himself testified that the Mueller investigation was not hampered in any way by his firing, and yet they're now going to try and impeach him. But that's not all. They're going to scream about it. So Rashida Tlaib, who's another one of these new faces, a fresh face. Again, I'm not the one labeling these people the new leaders of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party are, and the media are. Not my fault. I'm not just cherry-picking these folks. Okay, when Vanity Fair did their spreadsheet, their big spread, in their new magazine, I think it's the February issue, of power players, in which yours truly appears. The Democrats they chose from Congress were AOC, Rashida Tlaib, there's all these radicals. These are the people they chose to feature. This was the new wing, the new, diverse, magical wing. So Rashida Tlaib is a radical anti-Semite. And not only is she in favor of boycott, divestment, and sanctions from the state of Israel, she has tweeted out radically awful things about Israel and Jews before. She's a terrible person. And Rashida Tlaib, but we can't say that she's a terrible person because she's diverse, right? She's one of the first Muslim American Congress people. She, along with another one of her colleagues in Congress this year, she is just, they're Muslim, and this means that they're inherently good, right? This means that they're inherently good because diversity is inherently good. Rashida Tlaib, number one, her office immediately, just to show who she is, she moves into her congressional office, and Hannah Allam, who is a reporter, tweets out this photo of a map in her office and says, someone has already made a slight alteration to the map that hangs in Rashida Tlaib's new congressional office. What does it show? It shows a Post-it note that has been placed over Egypt with an arrow toward Israel and the word Palestine. So she wants to replace Israel with Palestine, which means the genocide of the Jews in the area. And she has placed that on her map in her congressional office. But don't worry, she's new and fresh-faced. Also, we know she's new and fresh-faced because she uses lots of curse words. Now, I remember a time, 30 seconds ago, when we kept hearing that Donald Trump was a very vulgar, bad man because he's vulgar and bad. Now, there are those of us who don't like vulgarity. There are those of us who think that Donald Trump is vulgar and that his vulgarity is not excusable and that it's a bad thing. There are those of us who think that this sort of approach to politics is ugly, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. But there's something a little hypocritical about the Democrats whining about vulgarity and then celebrating as Rashida Tlaib goes out there and says that her chief goal is going to be impeaching the mother effer. She was caught saying this yesterday on tape. Here she was.
People love you and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
That's how you know she's authentic. And by the way, if she said to her daughter, impeach the mother effer, so that's not very good parenting. I mean, I don't know how old her daughter is, but I don't curse to my children. That's a bizarre choice. Now, that doesn't mean that people can say, like, if you're not pissed at Trump doing this sort of stuff, then you're not allowed to really be pissed at Rashida Tlaib for doing this sort of stuff. But the same holds true the other way. So Nancy Pelosi, who's been whining about Donald Trump being vulgar for the last several years at this point, she shied away from moving forward with impeachment. But she said that the language used by Rashida Tlaib, well, it was no worse than what he said. She said that impeachment is divisive, but she's not actually going to chide Rashida Tlaib over all of this because she can't control her own radicals. This is going to be an ongoing problem for Nancy Pelosi. Here was Pelosi basically making room for her own radicals while at the same time pretending that only the Republicans are radicals.
Many Democrats are talking about impeachment. You've said it would be sad and divisive for the country to pursue impeachment. Mm. Are you willing to rule it out?
Well, we have to wait and see what happens with the Mueller report. We shouldn't be impeaching for a political reason, and we shouldn't avoid impeachment for a political reason. So we'll just have to see how it comes.
So that's her saying impeachment is on the table. She can't really name why yet, but sure, why not? And then she says about the language used. She says, generationally, that would not be language I would use, but nonetheless, I don't think we should make a big deal of it. The hypocrisy of politicians is so tiring. It's so tiring. Okay, if you're going to complain about Donald Trump's behavior, then when your own members use that same kind of behavior, you have to condemn it. And the same holds true on the right. If you're going to condemn Rashida Tlaib, then when President Trump uses this kind of behavior, you should also condemn it. Okay, you need to be consistent with these sorts of standards. Otherwise, there are no standards at all with which to be consistent. But that wasn't the only thing that Democrats were doing yesterday. Rashida Tlaib, for her part, she tweeted out that she's unapologetic about using the mother F word. She says, I will always speak truth to power. Hashtag unapologetically me. Oh, I'm so tired. It's January 4th, and I'm so tired. I will always speak truth to power. Yeah, speaking truth to power is calling the president a mother effer as people cheer wildly for you. Wow, what a difficult life you lead, Rashida Tlaib. Being elected once and then saying whatever you want and people cheering for you because you're a diverse congressperson. And I love it when it's like, unapologetically me. I'm here, and I'm proud to be me. You're so boring. You know it's not boring? Self-betterment. You know what actually is boring? I'm me. Oh, it's so just self-absorbed. Congratulations. You know who else is me? My son, and he poops in his diaper. Just ridiculous. Okay, that's not the only thing Democrats were doing either. Also, Representative Steve Cohen introduced 2 bills on Thursday, one to eliminate the Electoral College. So that's exciting. It's particularly exciting because he doesn't understand how the Constitution works. You can't introduce a bill to remove the Electoral College. It's part of the Constitution, you moron. You actually have to introduce a constitutional amendment, which would never pass. So glad to see the Democrats have all their priorities in the correct place. Hank Johnson, a man who thinks that the island of Guam is going to tip over from too many people because he's a highly intelligent human. This is Congressman Hank Johnson from the GA 4th District. Meanwhile, he is ranting and raving about how Trump supporters are all committing suicide. So Democrats really demonstrating that they should be trusted with power. Now, their whole pitch was, you can't trust Trump with power. And now their whole pitch is, we crazy. I mean, so here's Hank Johnson being totally nuts.
Donald Trump supporters are older, less educated, less prosperous, and they are dying early. Their lifespans are decreasing, and many are dying from alcoholism, drug overdoses, liver disease, or simply a broken heart caused by economic despair.
Yeah, that's what Trump supporters are. They're all dying, committing suicide. It's all the Trump supporters. That's what's happening here. No Democrats have ever committed heroin overdoses. None. I mean, incredible knowledge being dropped there by Hank Johnson, who legitimately said that an island was going to tip over because of overpopulation. The good news, though, is that the media are doing yeoman's work in covering the Democrats. CNN took Nancy Pelosi for ice cream. I am not kidding you. Remember when they did this with Paul Ryan when he became Speaker? Nah, neither do I. Remember when Donald Trump became president and they took him for a milkshake? I mean, we know he likes milkshakes. Bill O'Reilly took him for a milkshake once. Okay, but do you remember when CNN did that? I don't. But here they are taking charming Nancy Pelosi over to the local Vaqueros for some ice cream, hopefully sugar-free so it doesn't melt away at those dentures. Here they are on CNN.
She attributes her boundless energy to Italian genes. It's certainly not a balanced diet. Dark chocolate and ice cream. Vaqueros has been her favorite since she was a little girl.
The chocolate, not the chocolate chip, the chocolate. I like my chocolate unadulterated.
Okay, so that's a thing. She likes her chocolate unadulterated. Good coverage there, CNN. Solid coverage. I mean, I can't imagine why people think CNN's a biased network. I mean, come on. That's not bias. That's hard-hitting reporting. She attributes her long-standing life expectancy to Italian genes. Very, very important stuff. By the way, do we have any data about like whether Italians live longer? I don't know that data exists, but doesn't matter. She's an old lady, and we have to trust everything she says. She loves dark chocolate and she loves ice cream, and she used to go to Vaqueros as a child, and this means that she is going to legislate on behalf of the children. Oh, CNN, you suck so radically much. Yeah, it makes you actually want to chant that at like a rally. It really, like CNN sucks. I mean, that just awful stuff. Okay, so I want to get to the government shutdown, which continues. I also want to get to the markets, which have been all over the place, and a very good economic report for President Trump. And we'll do some mailbag, too, so a lot coming up. But you're going to have to go over to dailywire.com right now and subscribe. When you do that, for $9.99 a month, you get the rest of the show live. You get the rest of the show on video. Coming up on Monday, you get 2 additional hours per day of the Ben Shapiro Show. It's going to be unbelievable. You're going to love it. You're going to live it. It's going to be your life experience. You get that starting on Monday because our radio show, our 2-hour live radio show in the afternoons, that's a thing that's happening. And you're only going to be able to listen to the back episodes of that and listen to it at all if you are a subscriber, unless you listen to it on live radio on our syndicated show. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, we're working our fingers to the bone for you as subscribers. Plus, when you spend $99 a year, you get this. The Leftist Cheers Hot or Cold Tumbler. It is cheaper than $9.99 a month, and you get this. I mean, look at this thing. I'm beginning to feel healthier. Each day, I feel a little bit better. And that's because I like to sip in moderation from this. Were I to actually just gulp from the Leftist Tears Hot or Cold Tumbler, I would immediately become immoral. But if I were immoral, I could no longer speak to mere mortals, and then my show would end. So instead, I sip from it. I become a little healthier every day. The Leftist Tears Hot or Cold Tumbler keeps hot things hot, cold things cold. How does it know? Unbelievable. You can go check that out for $99 a year. Also, please subscribe at YouTube or iTunes. We have a great Sunday special this week with General Stanley McChrystal, which is really fascinating stuff. Some really good episodes coming up in the very near future. So many goodies coming just for you. Subscribe, YouTube, iTunes, all the rest of it. Leave us a review. That always helps us. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the nation.